Welcome to an English lesson with English with Miss Julia. This lesson is aimed at English B2 level, and the topic for this lesson is a familiar affair. In this lesson we cover the listening part 1 as an example in the exam, reading part 6 and the use of English, and our vocabulary is around phrasal verbs. Be encouraged to stop the video as frequently as possible and attempt to answer the questions on your own before seeing the answers. A kind reminder to also practice your pronunciation. That being said, let's get started. Here we see 4 photographs including people who could be family members. On the left we are given 4 questions to which you could give your personal response. First question would be, what aspects of family life does each of the photos show? A typical answer could be, they show families spending time together. Second question, what might the people in the pictures be saying or thinking? A typical answer could be, perhaps they are sharing kind words and their recent experiences. The next question, how are each of these aspects of family life important? A typical answer could be, special celebrations and being together is always good for everyone. Last question. Imagine a photo of your own family life and describe it. A typical answer could be, I think of Christmas time and birthday celebrations, when our whole family gets together and celebrates with gifts, food, and happy times. In the first exercise of our listening part, you will hear people talking in 8 different situations. Before you listen, read questions 1 to 8 and underline the main ideas in each. Number 1, you hear a woman talking to her brother about an old family photo. What is she doing? Making fun of his fashion sense? Explaining how alike they are? Complaining about his pose? Number 2, you hear a man talking to a woman about the sale of his family home. What upsets him about the parents' decision? Leaving behind a piece of family history? Having to find a new house? Being far away from his friends? Number 3, you hear a woman talking about her childhood. The woman remembers her bedtime routine as crazy, irritating, tiring. Number 4, you hear a woman about her experience of working from home. How does she feel about it? Concerned about not seeing her colleagues? Pleased to be spending less money on travel? Surprised that she's become more efficient? Number 5, you hear a journalist talking about an article he has written on family life. What point is he making about the article? It is based on his own experiences. People's reactions to it surprised him. He hoped it would be beneficial to families. Number 6, you hear a woman talking about her new job. What does the woman feel pleased about? The paid holiday allowance? The flexible working hours? The working environment? Number 7, You hear part of a conversation about buying presents. The man is annoyed because he hasn't bought any presents for his family yet. He has to buy presents for people he may not see. His relatives sometimes surprise him with unexpected gifts. Number 8. You hear two friends talking about a presentation they've just attended. What do they agree about the presenter? He was able to keep the audience engaged. He explained complicated ideas clearly. He displayed good time management skills. Now take a moment, underline in each of the statements what you believe is important to listen to. Now let's listen to the audio.
Track 2, Unit 1, page 9. Listening Part 1. Exercise 2. 1. You hear a woman talking to her brother about an old family photo.
Hey, look what I just found.
No way! When was that taken?
About 15 years ago, I reckon. You haven't changed a bit.
Very funny. I can't believe our parents made us wear matching jumpers. We look ridiculous.
Oh, it's not that bad. It does help us to look more like brother and sister, I suppose, which is probably why they did it.
You're right about that.
It would be so much better if you weren't sticking your tongue out, though.
Yeah, I remember Mum and Dad not being too pleased about that.
2. You hear a man talking to a woman about the sale of his family home.
So I heard your parents are selling the house.
Yeah, they're downsizing. I'd already cleared out my old room and moved everything to my flat, so I doubt I'll get sentimental about that. The one thing I might shed a tear over is the door frame of the kitchen. Our parents used to mark our heights on it every 6 months, and it's quite sweet. I guess I'll just have to take a picture. My sister, on the other hand, is fairly upset about the location of the new house. It's only a 1-hour drive to the city, but it does make it trickier to hang out with her friends who live there.
3. You hear a woman talking about her childhood.
The fondest memory I have of my childhood is playing football with my dad every evening before bed. Normally, children get bedtime stories, but not me. My dad would grab a worn-out football made of foam and play with me in the tiny hall of the flat. We'd carry on playing for ages. I can't begin to tell you how many vases and other fragile objects we managed to break. It used to drive my mum mad. It was extremely effective, though. I was exhausted after playing and I slept like a log. I guess I did get stories every now and again, but for some reason I found them more annoying than anything else.
4. You hear a woman talking about her experience of working from home.
I've been working from home for just over 2 weeks now. I certainly don't miss having to commute for 2 hours every day, waking up early to catch my train, that sort of thing. I thought I'd be more easily distracted than working in the office, but amazingly, my productivity has actually got... I'm conscious of the fact I'm spending more time on my own, though, so I've organised daily virtual coffee breaks with people in the office, just to keep in touch, which has worked out really well.
5. You hear a journalist talking about an article he has written on family life.
So my article on family life has been out in the public domain for about a week now. I didn't know if anyone would even read it at first, but it seems to have caused quite a stir online. Hardly surprising, I suppose, given the subject matter. Quite a few people have got in touch to say how helpful they found it, which is what I was counting on really, because a lot of the insights I gained into family life were based on other people's accounts rather than my own.
6. You hear a woman talking to her father about her new job.
So, how's the new job?
I can't believe it's been 3 months already. The hours are long, but that's to be expected, really, as we're working on some really important projects at the moment.
How are you getting on with your new colleagues?
They've been really supportive and have helped me get to grips with the new systems and processes. I couldn't have hoped for a nicer atmosphere in the office either. I just hope I'll get the chance to book some time today when the work starts to settle down. I'll have definitely earned it by then.
7. You hear part of a conversation about buying presents.
I'm so stressed out about having to buy all these presents. My family is way too big, and it's such a hassle every year.
Tell me about it.
I guess I've made some progress, but I'm still nowhere near done. The most irritating bit is having to get stuff for relatives who might not even be there. There are a few people in my family who think it's hilarious to say they're not coming, then turn up for lunch and go, "Surprise!" Oh, they've caught me off guard a few times, so now I have to have a few extra presents just in case to avoid it turning into an embarrassing situation.
8. You hear two friends talking about a presentation they've just attended.
What did you think about the presentation today, Sam? The presenter was good, wasn't he?
Absolutely. The data he presented was so surprising. I thought he was making it up at first. I struggled to keep up with the more complex arguments, though. They could have been clearer.
Yeah, a lot of people have said the same. I personally thought he was quite easy to follow. And he was so passionate about the topic. You could see how interested everyone was.
I couldn't agree more. It's just a shame he ran out of time at the end. I had so many questions to ask him.
That's true. We can always email him, I guess.
If you need to re-listen to the audio in the event that you did not get all the answers, simply rewind and re-listen. Now let's look at the answers. First question about what she was doing. The answer is C, complaining about his pose. Number 2, what upsets him about his parents' decision? Leaving behind a piece of family history. Number 3, the woman remembers her bedtime story or bedtime routine as tiring. Number 4, how does she feel about it? She feels surprised that she's become more efficient. Number 5, what point is he making about the article? He hoped it would be beneficial to families. Number 6, what does the woman feel pleased about? She feels pleased about the working environment. Number 7, the man is annoyed because he has to buy presents for people he may not see. Number 8, what do they agree about the presenter? He was able to keep the audience engaged. Next we look at vocabulary, and our vocabulary is about phrasal verbs. From the extracts that we listened to in listening part 1, we are required to match the highlighted phrasal verbs 1 through to 6 to the definition showed as A through to F. Let's read them first. Number 1. It's only a 1-hour drive to the city, but it does make it trickier to hang out with her friends who live there. Number 2, quite a few people have got in touch to say how helpful they have found it, which is what I was counting on. Really? Number 3, they've caught me off guard a few times, so now I have to have a few extra presents just in case to avoid it turning into an embarrassing situation. Number 4, the data he presented was so surprising. I thought he was making it up at first. Number 5. My dad would grab a worn-out football made of foam and play with me in the town hall of the flat. We'd carry on playing for ages. Number 6. There are a few people in my family who think it's hilarious to say that they're not coming and then turn up for lunch and go, surprise! Now take a moment and see if you can match the phrasal verbs that have been highlighted to the options available in A through to F. Let's look at the answers. Number 1, to hang out with. This is to spend time with someone. To count on is to rely on or to depend on something or someone. Number 3, turning into. This is to become or to transform. Number 4, making it up is to invent or to lie. Number 5, carry on is to continue. Number 6, turn up is to arrive or to appear. In reading and the use of English part 6, our first exercise is, you are going to read an article about a wedding. Before you read, write these adjectives in the correct columns. The columns are usually positive, usually negative, or it could be either. And the adjectives are anxious, bad-tempered, bossy, bright, considerate, dishonest, enthusiastic, hardworking, impatient, mature, organized, polite, quiet, reserved, responsible, sensitive, unreliable, wise. The first answer has been done for us. Anxious, usually negative. Bad-tempered, usually negative. To be bossy is usually negative. To be bright is usually positive. To be considerate, positive. To be dishonest, negative. To be enthusiastic is positive. To be hardworking is positive. To be impatient is negative. To be mature is positive. To be organized is positive. To be polite is positive. To be quiet could be either positive or negative. To be reserved could be either. To be responsible is positive. To be sensitive could be either. To be unreliable is negative. To be wise is positive. In exercise number 2 of reading and the use of English part 6, we are required to add one of the prefixes dis, im, in, ir, or an to each of the words to make opposites. The words are considerate, enthusiastic, organized, responsible, concerned, mature, polite, and sensitive. Considerate becomes inconsiderate. Enthusiastic becomes unenthusiastic. Organized becomes disorganized. Responsible becomes irresponsible. Concerned becomes unconcerned. Mature becomes immature. Polite, impolite. Sensitive, insensitive. Exercise number 3 of the Reading and the Use of English Part 6. We are required to read the article carefully, ignoring the gaps, and then we need to respond to the question as to what is Sophie's problem. Let's read together. Sophie confesses how her wedding planning is not going so smoothly after all. Everyone knows how stressful and expensive planning a wedding can be. So straight after we got engaged, we immediately agreed that we'd do our best to avoid all these ridiculous expenses and keep things as stress-free as possible. We thought we'd done a good job of it as well. My mum, Ruby, has agreed to make the cake. The reception is in my parents' garden. The dress was €200 online, and my fiancé Brian is allergic to flowers. We're getting married in a registry office. Then, after the reception with all our families, we're going out with our friends in the evening. It couldn't be easier, right? The one thing we can't possibly put off any longer, however, is choosing how to seat people for dinner at the reception. We've been working on it for weeks, but we still can't figure it out. We're really keen to mix the relatives because they've never met, seeing as they all live in Australia. My mum and my stepdad Jack are extremely polite and considerate, but they're also very quiet, especially with people they don't know. So they're a bit anxious about meeting Brian's parents, Lawrence and Tanya. So you can see why I'm worried the 4 of them will end up feeling quite awkward. Still, we really want them to get to know each other, and what a better opportunity than wedding reception. You'd think that adding Brian's brother Fred to the mix would help. What with how friendly and extroverted he is. However, wherever I seat Fred, I also have to seat his best friend Steve. They have known each other for so long that they're really simply inseparable. The problem with that is that Brian's parents feel a little uneasy about them attending together. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that they're on their best behavior. The 2 people who absolutely must sit next to each other are Laura, my cousin, and her mum, Rebecca. Laura's been studying in the USA and Rebecca hasn't seen her in 10 months. So she's been calling me every week for 3 months to check that they can be next to each other. Finally, there are people I just don't know what to do with. First of all, there's Mark, my dad, who's obviously very keen to attend. Then there's Rob, Brian's other brother, who I really have no opinion about, although I know he and Steve don't really get along. And Nellie, my sister, who I'm really not concerned about. She's got such a bubbly personality. She'll make fantastic conversation wherever we put her. To sum up, this is definitely harder than it looks. After having read the text, what do you think is Sophie's problem? Sophie has a problem with the seating arrangement at her wedding reception. In exercise number 4, we see that 6 sentences have been removed from the article. The 6 sentences are given A through to G, and we are required to choose from these sentences the one that fits best in the gaps 1 through to 6. There's an extra sentence which we will not be required to use, and the first answer has been given to us. Number 1 is the sentence F. Sampling cakes, buying the perfect wedding dress, endlessly scouting venues, and buying flowers are all things we were not looking forward to. Best sentence to add to number 2 is B. We love our families dearly, but they're all so different in their own ways that it is proving way harder than we'd anticipated. Number 3 is E. They're a little reserved too, unfortunately. Number 4 is G. They're worried about how unreliable and immature the two of them can be. 5 is A. I don't think this should be too hard to arrange, but it's yet another thing to have to keep in mind. Number 6, C. He has gone to great lengths to ensure he can be there, despite how busy he is with work. Well done, and thank you for attending to this lesson. Please like and subscribe to our channel to enable others to learn from it too. Hope to see you in the next lesson.